And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael in this afternoon for Judy Simpson. We start today's program by noting that Vermont is generally regarded as a safe place to live. Compared to other states with large urban centers, Vermont is a safe place to live. Nonetheless, approximately 4,000 violent crimes are reported each year by the Vermont Department of Public Safety, and half of those crimes are against women. And that's one of the reasons why the Safety Team got started. The Safety Team is a Vermont nonprofit organization that's focused on safety, empowerment, and the well-being of women. And to learn more, I'm joined this afternoon by two members of the Safety Team. I want to welcome Darcy Richardson Miller, and also with us is Christine de Blasio, if I pronounced that correctly.
That's correct.
Well, welcome to both of you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Give us a background here. What is the Safety Team?
Sure. The Safety Team is a Vermont nonprofit. We're, as you introduced, we're focused on providing self-defense training for women. We really focus on empowering women to know that they have a right to defend themselves. And we are a group of women who have pretty diverse professional involvement in the effects of violence on women. And we're
going to get into that. Let me open up some of it right now. You are a toxicologist. You have a better understanding than the average Joe about date rape, alcohol. And so before we go any further, just open that up a little bit. What is your background, Darcy?
Sure. Well, I'm a toxicologist. I own Vermont Forensic Services. And what I do is I provide independent consulting to, involving cases with alcohol or drugs. So in terms of violence against women, if there is a sexual assault with alcohol involved or with drugs, I am often called to talk about, what effect does that have on a person's behavior? How does that affect their planning and their ability to defend themselves? Date rape drugs get a lot of press, but in 50% of assault cases, alcohol is involved, either on the victim side or the predator side. So alcohol is a very real concern.
So this is, the Safety Team is Vermont women, for Vermont women, and equally, Christine, you have an important background that you can bring to the Safety Team in your own professional life. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I'm a psychologist. I've been working in a private practice for over 20 years. In that work, I've been honored and privileged to work with many women who are survivors of sexual assault or other violence. And in part, that's what inspired me to join and form the Safety Team. Because while it's really gratifying to help women heal from the trauma that they may experience, it's my hope that we can help on the front end to prevent those sorts of traumas from occurring in the first place. Each woman on the Safety Team, Darcy, you mentioned that we have diverse professional backgrounds. We have a law enforcement officer, we have a physical therapist, we have an educator, and a forensic chemist. And each one of us, in our own way, has seen the after effects of violence on women. And as women ourselves, we're highly motivated to try to make a difference, to change the culture would be our great hope, but on a smaller scale, help women learn how to reduce their risk in whatever way that they can. So that's
another key piece of this, if I did my research correctly, you're both moms.
Yes.
You're raising daughters.
Yes. Yep. Yes, I have two college-age daughters, which I've always been concerned about their safety just as a mom, but college-age women are at the highest risk for sexual assault. So my own daughters have taken this course more times than maybe they would volunteer for, but it's really important to us. This is close to our heart to make sure that we're getting this information out there for other women.
And we're going to get into a typical course here, but I guess I just want to underscore one more time, and maybe we'll do it again before the end of the program. Alcohol is such a factor, particularly for young women, but it spans everything you told me, but I guess I just want to reinforce that. Alcohol is such a destructive force.
It is. It's used much more, it doesn't get the press that the date rape drugs do, but it's used much more prevalently and really for the same reasons. When you drink, you lose your ability to be aware of your surroundings, and unfortunately that makes it so that you can be kind of herded to an isolated place. You may not notice that you're being pushed that way, but you are. And so you lose.
And that's what a major factor in safety is isolation. If we're alone.
It is. It is, being alone. So even though you may have gone to the party with some girls with you, you know, after some drinks, if your awareness has started to go, you won't notice that you're not with them anymore.
So how did this team get started, you guys?
Well, we all do martial arts together. We train at the Marshall Way Self-Defense Center. I've been training for about 14 years. I don't know how long you've been training, Darcy.
About 13 years.
And so we all knew each other through that context. And at some point, I think after I earned my black belt, I was asked to teach some women's self-defense classes, which I did periodically, one here and there. But about 18 months ago, the whole team was together before we were really a team. And what we saw was that together, we were better together. We each had these different experiences that we could bring to the workshops to make them far more comprehensive than any of us alone could do. And so
we're seeing right now some of your safety class or classes. Can you describe a typical class? What happens?
Sure. A typical class starts with first creating a safe environment, and we do that. It sort of happens organically because it's all women in the class, and that in and of itself sort of lowers the anxiety and makes it a more comfortable environment. The first half of the class is an interactive presentation. We really talk about how you prevent an assault from happening in the first place. The best way to win a fight is to not get in one. And so we really talk about awareness, we talk about avoidance, we talk about how you carry yourself. Body language is a very important part of that because it really telegraphs a lot to a potential predator. So the first half is on prevention. The second half is on actual physical strategies that you may need to use if you're in a situation where awareness and avoidance wasn't sufficient. We keep those physical strategies very simple, easy to learn. And I have to say, most women find the physical component really fun. In fact, it's hard to get them to stop and to leave because it is fun.
But does someone need a certain level of fitness or a background in martial arts to do this? In other words, to help keep oneself safe? What background does someone need?
Our classes are open to anybody. Any physical ability, you know, you don't have to have any martial arts experience. You don't have to be an athlete. We have classes that are, again, the strikes are really easy to learn. You're not going to really work up a sweat into exhaustion. So any ability can come. If you have an injury or a disability, we cater around that. And really, we've had girls as young as 14 and elderly women all participate in the class. And anyone can do it, so that shouldn't stop you from attending.
Let me come back to something that Christine was talking about, which is there are really sort of two parts of this. There's the thinking and the thought and the cognizant part, and there is a physical part. But let's talk a little bit more about the cognition part, that idea that there are places or circumstances that put women in particular at risk. And I don't want to come off as a chauvinist here, my point being that generally speaking, and we're going to talk about some of this, physical stature, muscle, those kinds of things. So let me come back. Are there places or circumstances that put a woman more at risk?
I think, you know, being alone is a significant risk factor. Being alone in an area where you're isolated from the public. Women often come to these classes with an idea already. Their intuition has gone off that there are some things that they're worried about. For example, they talk about running alone. That's something that concerns women. Leaving work at night alone. Those are situations that internal alarms go off. And what we talk about is, okay, how do you change your routine so you minimize the risks there? So if you're leaving work at night alone, you go with a buddy, or you move your car so it's right by the door. You take small steps that might really reduce your risk. The other part isn't necessarily being alone, but being alone with someone you don't know well, someone that you don't know that you can trust your safety with. So as Darcy was talking about, you might be at a gathering, a party where you somehow get separated from the group and you're alone with someone you really don't know. Or if you're a college student, it might be someone who's familiar to you, they're in your class, but somehow you find yourself alone with them and you really don't know them well enough to know you can trust your safety to them. And I guess the last thing I would add is anytime your awareness is lowered. So if you're distracted, if you're walking somewhere to your car, you're leaving the mall at night on your cell phone, you're distracted. Anything that reduces your awareness puts you at higher risk. Now,
And I think that is, again, a piece that I want to emphasize is that idea of the parking lot after work. And one of the things we didn't quite say, but we're talking about when you get to work, park near the light pole, park close to the entrance. Is it important that you're not parking in the same place every day? What are some of the work-related tips that you might be able to pass on?
I think those are all good tips that you just mentioned. The other thing I would mention is before you leave at night, make sure you have your key out. Make sure that you allow your eyes to adjust to the darkness. So maybe you take a few seconds before you enter the parking lot to make sure you can actually see well. Have one hand free and be looking around, be alert. What you don't want to do is walk to your car. You don't know where your keys are. You're bundled up and you've got bags everywhere, and so your awareness and your ability to actually fight back should you need to is diminished.
So let's talk, as we segue with a few minutes left here. It is true that a lot of women are at a size disadvantage. That's just a physical fact. So how do you guys address that issue?
We show a number of techniques that actually work well for small people against a larger attacker. The other thing we really emphasize is that your point is just to defend yourself. We tell all of the women in the beginning to think about why they're fighting. Think about your kids at home who need their mom. Think about your parents who would be devastated if something happened to you. And kind of hold on to that. You are fighting for your life. Your attacker, who may be bigger and stronger, can give up at any time. You know, they're not looking for a fight, they're looking for an easy target. So you use everything you have, your whole body, against the attacker and fight for your life. And you know, you just have to do enough to get away. There are things, even a big guy, his eyes are still sensitive. You know,
well, that's one thing we talked about before the program. It's a little gross, but the eyes are, frankly, a good target.
They're an excellent target. We usually prep people to say "you" before we throw the strikes, but you can't. You know, a big tough guy is not going to have big tough eyeballs.
Well, we have a few minutes left here, and this is probably a good departure point to do a demonstration, in part because I am over 6 feet. I weigh about 250 pounds. We're going to see when we stand up that I am a lot physically bigger than you, and yet you have a couple of very simple techniques that would be able to self-defense. So let's go ahead and stand up. We'll push the chairs here out of the way. And Christine is going to get us started with, I believe, a posture piece. Is that correct?
The first thing that we teach is called a defensive stance. So the first thing that you do is you do what's called blading the body. So I'm turning my body from facing you to a sideways stance, protecting my vital targets by doing so.
Does it make a difference whether
I'm
defending myself this way or?
You know, I think it's more comfortable if you have your dominant foot back, but in a situation where adrenaline is going, whichever way you go is just fine.
So we've established a position with at least our lower body. What about the upper body?
The hands come up to about shoulder level. They're extended out, and the purpose for that is to create distance and also to send a message that I see you and I'm going to be a tough target. We are careful not to send this kind of message, which is an I surrender message, or this kind of message, which is.
Well, I was going to say, as a guy, isn't this the Muhammad Ali? Boom, boom.
We don't want to fight.
We don't want to fight.
We don't want to fight. As question.
The message is, you're not welcome.
Exactly.
Okay.
Back off.
So from there.
From there, then Darcy.
From here, you know, we've created our physical space. We definitely have the posture of you need to back off. We have verbally said back off. And we're going to do now a palm heel strike. And a palm heel strike, it's the first strike that we teach. We hit with the bottom part of your hand. It's actually, we get asked sometimes, why not just do a punch? If you've never punched anything before, it can be tricky to learn. You can hurt yourself, but a palm heel, anyone can do.
And this is one of the strongest parts of our body if there's force, right?
Right,
well,
you're not going to hurt yourself here.
Okay.
It's going to apply a lot of pressure. So we're going to use our whole body, and it's important to put our whole body. So it's not just my hand against some big guy.
Or some elbow coming out.
Right. And that's how you break it down with size.
Yep.
It's not just my hand against a big guy. It's my entire body against his nose.
Okay.
And
all right, we have a pad. We're going to be safe. And as
Yep.
much as the production crew wants them to attack me or self-defend against me. No, go ahead, ladies.
Darn.
So the palm heel strike, we're going to use our whole body. We're going to hit with this part, and we're going to pull it back. And it's a tremendous amount of force. And if I were to be doing that against someone's nose, you know, it would break, the eyes would water, and that would give you time to get away.
Okay. We need to wrap up, so we're going to give some contact info, but I also want to ask, is there a target there? You mentioned the nose. Again, 5'2" versus 6'4". Is the chest okay? Is the chin okay?
There's a lot of different, if Christine was going to palm heel me, wherever the head goes, the body follows.
Okay.
And if someone's taller, it works great. If you're really short, the palm heel can be moved like this and be a groin strike.
I need to jump in and ask, how can folks either get more information or they're ready to attend a class? What do they need to do?
Yep. Our website is www.thesafetyteam.org, and they can find the links to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn from there and keep track of us.
Christine and Darcy, thank you very much for
Thank you
being
for
with us.
having us.
I learned a lot,
Thank
and I'm
you.
sure that our female viewers did as well. That is our program for today. We know you have choices. Thanks for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael, inviting you to join us back here each weekday afternoon for another visit Across the Fence.